Hello, welcome back to Crime, Mystery, and Mayhem. Today's true story is going to be about Brian and David Freeman. Brian and David Freeman would grow up to join a Nazi organization that was supposed to have been dead a long time ago. Now, sources say that their parents were the Jehovah's Witnesses. Their dad was a janitor. The mom, she pretty much stayed at home and did working from home. And this family, they just minded their own business. And they never had any problems. But then when the boys got a little bit older, I'd say about 13 and 14 years old, they started to act out. They would skip school and start bullying other little kids, especially those kids of other race. Brian, he was more like the ringleader of the whole situation, it seems like, because wherever there was trouble, you'll always find Brian. And David, he was more of a yeah, I'm willing to, but you push him first, and then, that'll build up my confidence to do something. So, it wasn't right. But these boys, it's like they lived completely different lives other than what their parents had brought them up on. I mean, their parents had really good family values. They didn't drink, they didn't smoke, they attended church or the Kingdom Hall, and they just basically, were really good people of the community. But unfortunately, Brian and David were the complete opposite. They also had a little brother named Eric. Eric was a lot smaller than them, so he would consistently bully him. They would lock him in the closet and, lock him in the basement and bully him and push him down and call him names and say really mean things about his religion, because Eric, he was a good little boy. He wasn't off into bullying, and he was quiet, and he loved to go to church with his family. He loved other kids, and he just really had a big heart about themselves. And because of this, the brothers did not like him. Their parents, they loved Eric so much, to the point where his older brothers, Brian and David, they thought that Eric was like the family head and they were the black sheep, but that wasn't the case. Brian and David, they will act out in violence, so that's why their parents would shun them about the things that they've done. And like little old good Eric, he didn't do anything wrong. He did absolutely everything right, and the brothers, they did not like this. So their dad, Dennis, he was a janitor. He was a very hard worker. He couldn't afford to miss work and be at home all the time to make sure that his sons were not causing chaos in the household. So he asked his sister, Valerie, if she could move in to be able to keep an eye on things and help their mom, Brenda, keep a close eye on Eric, for safety reasons, because of course, Eric's older brothers, they acted like they hated him. Every chance they got, they bullied him. The mom, she would just say oh, stop it, leave him alone. And sources say that she even sent Brian to a mental institution to get evaluated to find out if there were some things going on, but they couldn't find anything. And then with David, they even sent him to a not police Nazi camp. They sent both of the boys to a police Nazi camp to get all of this Nazi stuff out of their mind, because they're Brenda's and Dennis's son were literally, they were really full-blown Nazis. They shaved their heads, they tattooed all this Nazi crap on their neck, and they were really shaming other races, especially African American and Mexican people. So it was so bad to the point where they consistently stayed kicked out of school. And because of this, they couldn't go back to school. So they began to recruit other people to be a part of their organization, their Nazi organization. And they would say things like they're proud to be a skinhead, and you know, the KKK is alive. And it was just sad. It was sad because no one did anything about this. Sources even say that the Freemans, Brenda Freeman, the mom, she went to the counseling, and she went to the churches, she went to like everyone to try to get help for her boys, but unfortunately no one wanted to help out. They were saying that there was no help for these boys, so they just consistently kept sending the boys back home, unfortunately. Poor Eric. Like, I feel the most terrible for him because he's got this dad who won't quit his job, or you know, to be able to protect him, or even if he doesn't quit his job, find some type of means to be able to protect your son. Like, and then the mom, like, what good are you doing saying, please don't do this to your brother? Come on, I know that there's got to be other things that they could have done. Like, for instance, not let them come back to the house, because if they're 16 and 17 years old and they're tormenting the household and they're old enough to know better, then they must not need to be under the same roof as you. If you've been these good parents this whole time and you have not been teaching your kids this racial stuff or these, you know, vicious and violent acts, then where are they getting it from? If they're not getting it from you guys, then 9 times out of 10, then that means that you should probably get them out of your household and try to find them help, you know, while they're not in the home, in safety aspects of the younger baby boy, Eric, who has nothing to do with their type of lifestyle. But unfortunately, all of that did not matter, because the mom, Brenda, and the dad, they would consistently say something to Brian and to David about their chaotic behavior, to the point where it will make them mad. Like, Brian would just be like, you know what, Mom, Dad, I hate you. One of these days I'm going to kill you. Like, Brian would try to steal his parents' car keys so him and his friends can go joyriding, him and his brother, his friends. And then he would threaten to kill his mom and chop up her head if she did not give him the keys. Brenda never gave him the keys. She went crazy. You're not getting my keys, kid. But it's like that didn't stop them from leaving outside of their parents' home and doing more things, or stealing cars, or committing crimes amongst other people. So one day, Brian and David and their cousin Ben, they have a cousin who wants to be a Nazi, so he shaves his head like a fool, and he's a part of the pack too. So they all go to the movies one night, and I'm guessing this is where they begin to plot the family murder. So they're sitting at the movies and enjoying their movie, probably calling people the N-word or whatever word it is that people use when they want to hurt someone of a different race. So then they goes back to David and Brian's house, and they're just like kicking back, making all this loud noise. And then Brenda, she already doesn't like their cousin Ben. She does not like their cousin Ben. She's like, please get him out of my house. I do not like him. I don't like him. Get him out of here. And they're like, he's not leaving. You know, you get up out of our room before we, you know, fuck you up, Mom. And it's like, oh my goodness, like, this mom is literally taking this type of abuse and this type of, couldn't be me. Like, how could you allow your children to do you like that? And they don't pay rent or bills or buy food, and they get to talk to you like that? No. It's a no-go for me. Not gonna happen. So, and by the way, the aunt Valerie, they tormented her so much to the point where she up and she left. She was like, I'm not having it anymore. It was literally pissing in this woman's shampoo. This lady would get in the shower, go to lather her hair up, and it smells really funky. So eventually they end up telling her, yeah, by the way, does that piss feel on your scalp? And she's just like, oh my goodness. Like, she would go to bed at night and then wonder like what's scratching up her legs, to wake up and find chicken bones in her bed. Like, these these boys put chicken bones in this lady's bed. Like, oh my goodness, like what the heck? So I knew she really had to be, I'm pretty sure they did way more to this woman. So eventually her brother, who is the dad, Dennis, he just comes out and he's just like, you know what, sis, you don't deserve this. These are my kids. I think you should find you a place, because they're going to keep screwing with you. And so Valerie, yeah, she packs up her things and she leaves, but she does not want to leave her sweet nephew Eric behind, because she knows what he's going to go through. And so she's just like, I'm gonna try to visit every single day. And Eric is just like, please don't leave me here. You know, mom and dad, they gonna put these foods out, and I don't want to be here with them. And so she's just like, I'm sorry I can't take you with me, but I promise I will be here to visit you. She should not have left him. She should have called the police. Someone should have done more. But it was too late. Because after the brothers and the cousin returned home from the movies, and Brenda approached Ben about him being in her home, baby, her own son, Brian, was like, Mom, if you don't get out of my room, I'm going to kill you. And Brenda and her son Brian, they're just arguing, and Brenda had enough, to the point where she's like, you know what, I have a feeling my son is really going to kill me. He's got this look in his eye. I gotta get up out of his room. But she could not run fast enough, because as soon as she tried to make it down that hallway, baby, Brian was on her heels. He grabbed his mom by the back of her shirt, and before she can get a chance to scream, he shoved a pair of his nasty shorts into her mouth, so could no one hear her scream. And he grabbed a very large butcher knife and just repeatedly stabbed his mother over and over and over again. Now, after he stabs his mother over and over again, and her lifeless body is laying there, blood spilling out all over the hardwood floor and the carpet, he pulls her gown up to embarrass her after death even more. This is your mom. Not only did you kill her, but you exposed her body for when the police to come in, they can see. That's evil right there. That boy was no longer her son. So after this, you know, the cousin Ben and the other brother David, they're excited. They're like, come on, let's go to Dad's room. They go to their daddy room. Brian has an aluminum baseball bat, and David has a metal weight bar. And Ben, he's just sitting there, probably with his fist or whatnot, like, come on, I'm ready for this. They just walk up in there quietly, and they go to bashing their daddy's skull in repeatedly. And then Ben leans over with the knife, and he slits his throat. So not only did they repeatedly, he was probably already dead from the multiple blows to his head, because sources say that they hit him so many times and hit him so hard in his head, to the point where his skull was open and his brain had popped out, had swollen out of his skull. And then they slashed his neck. That was some serious hatred that they feel for their parents, because that was overkill. Like, what did your parents do besides go to church and take care of you and pay your bills and put food in your belly, take you to the doctors and to the dentist and to school and supply your clothes? And so after that, Brian is like, you know what? Let's go into Eric's room. I hate him. They goes into this little baby's room while he's sleeping. did not hear his parents being killed. He's just in his bed, sleeping, probably dreaming about how his day at school is going to be tomorrow. Or he's probably dreaming or having a nightmare about his brothers coming in his room, killing him at night. And it happens. He didn't even get a chance to wake up out of his sleep. I don't know where they got an axe handle from, but they had an 8-inch axe handle, and they beat this baby repeatedly, blow by blow in his face, to the point where he was unrecognizable. So after they done this, they're like looking for the keys to the car that their mom repeatedly told them that they can't have, after they slaughtered their mother, their dad, and their baby brother beyond recognition. They find the keys and they drive off into the sunset. Drive off into the sunset in the stolen car, covered in blood, proud, praising Hitler. And basically, this is like Hitler died like so many years ago, but they're praising to his spirit and to his ghost, saying things like, "We hope we did you proud." Like, oh my goodness, going to hell automatically, because they're basically, Hitler was the devil. In my book, he was, in my opinion. But they drove off, and they go off to meet other Nazi friends. They're off in the woods doing other crimes and killing animals and probably killing other people. Because if they could stomach killing their own parents and their own baby brother, and stabbing them repeatedly and bashing them in heads with aluminum bats and axe handles, who's to say that they haven't been doing this type of stuff? So they drive off, and then they go to their friend's house, and they're just partying, they're drinking, getting high, getting more angry. And then Valerie's like, she's like, I'm gonna go check on my nephew, sweet little nephew Eric. So Brenda normally always leaves her door open, and she's always normally home during the day. But Valerie noticed something weird. She's like, wait a minute, my brother's pickup truck is here. My brother never misses a day of work. This is weird. So she's like, maybe he's sick. So she goes to unlock the door, and by now it's morning time. The boys, they drove off into the sunset. They're doing them. And Valerie's like, this is weird. The door is locked. The door is never locked, especially with my sister-in-law's here. She's always home. So she's like, you know what? I have a house key, but I'm not going to use it. I'm just going to go around to the garage door. She goes around to the garage door. She noticed that the garage door is locked as well. So she's like, I'm going to try the glass door. So she goes to the glass door, and the glass door slides right open. As soon as she steps foot into the house, she breathes, and the steam comes out of her mouth because the house is freezing cold. Now, let me remind you, this is like the beginning of fall, or like the beginning of winter, somewhere up in there, but it's pretty cold out. So the house is completely dark, and she's noticing that she doesn't hear a sound, but all the vehicles are here. Where's Eric? Where's Brenda? Where's my brother Dennis? So she's like, I'm gonna go to Eric's room. She goes upstairs to Eric's room, and she's like, I'm just gonna probably surprise him. Everyone's probably still sleeping. But as soon as she opens that door and she looks, she takes a glimpse of Eric's bed, all you see is blood and brain matter just splattered over the lamp, over the bedding, just everywhere. And she almost faints. Like she couldn't get out of there fast enough. She tramples down the stairs and out of the door. She's screaming because, for one, she could not believe she just saw her nephew in this situation. And not just that, she's probably thinking in her mind, oh my goodness, if this is my nephew's fate, I can only imagine what is my brother's fate as well as his wife's fate. So she hurries up and she dials 911. And she tells 911 what she sees. So she meets 911 somewhere because she refuses to go back to that house. She gives 911 her house key to get in, and then they go in through the front door, and all they have are their flashlights. I'm guessing the brothers, they must have like busted the light bulbs or something, because why didn't the police turn the lights on? I don't know, but all they had was their flashlights, and it was dark in the house. But yeah, so the first thing they see is an aluminum baseball bat sitting like kind of against this like china chest, and it's got spots of blood on it, and they also see like blood on the carpet, but they don't see a body yet. So they go up the stairs, and they goes into the master bedroom where their dad was, and they open the door, and that's exactly what they see. It's red everywhere. The dad's head is busted open, and his brain is basically swollen out of his skull. So the police, they hurry up and they close the door, and they go into Eric's room, and they automatically begin to like feel sadness, because this is a little bitty boy that this happened to. Like, who could do this to anyone, let alone a little baby boy? So they're looking for the mom, and then they go downstairs towards the basement, and then they notice a bloody knife, and they also notice is Brenda's dead body covered in stab wounds all throughout her torso, in her neck and her face. And they also witness, they're trying to figure out if this was some type of sexual assault, because her gown was all the way up, and her whole entire body was exposed. So the police, they were called to this house multiple times, of course, for Brian's and for David's horrendous acts multiple times throughout their teens. So they instantly think, where are these boys? These are our lead suspects. So now they're going on a goose hunt. They're looking for these boys, and they're trying to, make sure they stay on the trail. They don't want to lose sight, because it's like they're pretty sure that these boys are guilty. And then lo and behold, they end up finding these boys at a house party. A neighbor ended up calling the police and complaining about loud noises, and they found Ben, Brian, and David in their pissy drunk and high, ready to be arrested. So the boys instantly, they didn't deny doing it. As the police were walking them out the house, they're like hailing Hitler and just telling Hitler, oh my goodness, Hitler, we know we're going to see you one day in hell. We did such a good job. I can't wait to dab you in hell. Fist, high five. Like, what type of shit is that? But yeah, so they go to court. The boys want to plead insanity. And, sources say while the boys were in jail awaiting their trials and stuff, they wouldn't talk to anyone. They'll just go to court and just mind their own business and just kind of go back to their cell. They wouldn't really talk to anyone, but no one really dealt with them like that in jail anyway, because they were afraid. Like, well, these boys, they killed their parents and they slaughtered their brothers, so what will we get? So yeah. Long story short, these boys end up getting life in prison. The judge threw out that whole insanity plea because these boys were saluting Hitler. Then they didn't care, and they were proud about it. So, yeah. Well, it's sad to say that this happened to the entire family. Not just the little boy, but the entire family. Especially the aunt, because she basically lost her brother, her nephew, and her sister-in-law. And even though her other two nephews were murderers, it's sad that they lived their life like that. Like, what were they going through to make them go through that? So, with that being said, I think it's really important that we keep an eye on our children and look for warning signs. And when we see something, don't be afraid to express how we feel, no matter how old our children get. Because I know that when children get a certain age, they might feel like they're grown, but if they're living under your household, eating your food, they're not paying rent, and they cannot afford to take care of themselves, then they're still kids. You can't let them abuse their other siblings. You can't let them be criminally just out here, just doing stuff that they're not supposed to do, because if you are allowing it to happen, when they go to jail, it's kind of your fault, because learning starts from home. And if you're not doing anything about it, you're kind of egging it on and kind of putting the gun into your children's hands for them to rebel against humanity. Well, until next time, join me on Crime, Mystery, and Mayhem. Thanks for tuning